We all kind of think our fears are totally new, right? But what if our horror stories are just old ghosts learning new tricks? They've always been a mirror for what keeps us up at night. Whether it's the creak of a floorboard or, the creepy glow of a phone screen in a pitch-black room. Let's dig in.
So, I gotta ask you, which one scares you more? A ghost that can literally slide into your DMs, or a curse that just seeps up from the ground beneath your feet? It's a really interesting question about where our nightmares are coming from these days.
And to figure that out, we're going to dive deep and pull apart two really chilling stories from the Hindi horror channel Skull Tales. We're going to look at how they build that sense of dread, who or what the monsters are, and the mistakes that lead the characters straight to their doom.
Okay, first up, we've got a story that feels so incredibly modern. This is horror for the 21st century. It's all about social media, online lies, and a ghost who basically uses Wi-Fi as her own personal hunting ground.
The whole setup here is simple, but also scarily believable. A young guy, Bit2, is just scrolling through video reels, and he finds this super attractive profile. He sends a message, she messages back. It feels real, it's exciting, but here's the thing. He's not talking to a girl. He's talking to a trap.
So what's really fascinating here is just how methodical this ghost is. It's not random. It follows the exact pattern of a modern catfishing scheme. First, there's the bait, the perfect online profile. Then, the hook, all those flirty DMs that make him feel special. Then comes the trap, the invitation. And finally, you see the ghost's real goal, a very, very specific kind of revenge.
And this right here, this quote says it all. It spells out her entire motivation. See, she's not just some random ghost bumping around in the night. Nope. The ghost of room 19 is a moral judge. She was a victim in life, and now in death, she's become this supernatural force for justice, hunting down men who think just like the ones who hurt her. The horror has a crystal clear why.
And get this, the trap isn't just online, it's physical too. On the internet, the Hotel Grand Orchid looks amazing, classy, the perfect place for a secret hookup. But in the real world, it's a burnt-out, crumbling wreck. This whole deception perfectly mirrors the ghost's profile, something beautiful on the surface, hiding something truly terrifying underneath. The second you walk through that door, the rules of reality just don't apply anymore.
All right, so let's switch gears completely. Let's look at our second story and see how it builds a totally different kind of fear. We're leaving the city, leaving the internet behind, and we're heading out to the countryside, where the horror is as old as the dirt itself. This one's called Kuni Mitti, which means bloody soil.
Now this story is a textbook example of what we call folk horror. This is the kind of scary story where the fear doesn't come from one ghost with a backstory. It comes from the land, from isolation, from ancient secrets, and from what happens when a desperate person messes with something that was meant to stay buried.
So we follow this guy, Rajan, a farmer who is just at the end of his rope. He's broke, he's exhausted, and he's about to sell the family farm. But he decides to do one last harvest, and that's when he finds something weird. The crops from one small patch of his field are amazing, way better quality than everything else.
And we're not talking about a small profit bump here. I mean, look at the difference. The grain from this one patch of cursed soil makes him 5 times more money than all the rest of his crops put together. That's life-changing money. It's not just a lucky break. It's a temptation so huge, it would make just about anyone start ignoring the red flags.
So, you gotta be asking, what's the secret? What's in the soil? Well, Rajan and his wife, they start digging, and they find it, a human skeleton. All that money, all that hope, it's all growing out of death. The land isn't blessed, it's been fed.
And this is what makes folk horror so creepy. Unlike the ghost in room 19, there's no obvious villain. So who's the bad guy here? Is it the spirit of the skeleton? Is it the land itself, this ancient, hungry thing? Or is the real monster the farmer's own greed, which makes him a part of this horrible cycle? The story never gives you a straight answer.
So we've got two very different kinds of monsters, and two guys who walk right into their traps. So what was it? What was their big mistake that led them to their doom?
It really breaks down like this. Bit2's sin is completely modern. It's lust, driven by the instant gratification of the internet. His tool is his smartphone. Rajan's sin, though, is timeless. It starts as desperation, and it grows into greed. His tool is a shovel. Both end up in a world of horror, but one faces a very personal revenge.
while the other just digs up a curse that was waiting for anyone foolish enough to find it.
I mean, listen to this line from Bit 2. It tells you everything you need to know about his mindset. It's so careless, so arrogant. He thinks he's won some kind of prize. He has absolutely no idea that he's the one being hunted.
Now compare that to what Rajan says right before everything changes for him. This isn't arrogance at all. It's just pure bone-deep exhaustion. He's at rock bottom, and that's what makes him so vulnerable. When the land offers him this miracle, he grabs on with both hands and doesn't ask any questions, at least not until it's way too late.
Okay, so when you put these two stories, these two nightmares right next to each other, you start to see something really interesting about fear itself.
You really have two completely different faces of fear. On one hand, you've got a targeted revenge for a very modern sin. It's personal, it's specific, and it feels, well, almost like justice. But on the other hand, you have this ancient, uncaring curse. The land isn't punishing Rajan for being a bad person, he just had the bad luck to dig in the wrong spot.
So what this really shows us is that horror is always changing, always adapting. It'll create brand new monsters, like a ghost who knows how to use social media to prey on our modern anxieties. But at the same time, it holds up a mirror to the things that never change, our fear of the dark, of the unknown, and of our own greed.
And that leaves us with one last kinda spooky thought to chew on. Are our modern horror stories just old ghosts learning to use new technology? Or maybe, just maybe, we're starting to crave a different kind of monster, one that gives us a twisted sense of justice for our modern sins, a kind of clarity that those old, ancient curses in the earth could never, ever offer.